Welcome back, brewers and beer lovers, and today we are doing our showdown between House Hightower, aka the Greens, and the Blacks, being the House Targaryen. So we have our Black IPA, we have our Green Apple Skittles Sour. We got to fill up the most ridiculous, one of the more ridiculous beers I think I've made. We have empty glasses that need to be filled up. Yes. So. We've got beers, and there's a very clear difference between these beers. One of them is black and one of them is green.
Well, it's not the greenest green I've ever seen, but it's the greenest beer you've ever made.
The weirdest thing about this whole beer tasting is that this is the first time that we're doing like a beer comp with two actual different beer styles.
Very different.
Like normally when we do the beer battles, it's like they're both an IPA or they're both a NEPA or they're both a whatever. This is like it's a specialty beer. It's a specialty fruit infused sour, except it's artificial fruit. And then this is a black IPA. So they're about as polar opposite as you can get.
What do you start with? What are you doing? That's so different.
Because you know what, I would say start with the IPA because you're going to get soured out, but at the same time, the IPA is also extremely overpowering.
It does smell nice.
All right, are we starting IPA? Start IPA.
Cheers, bro.
Cheers. It's so good.
Yep.
It's so good.
It drinks like an IPA, looks like a stout.
It's so good. So it tastes a lot like a classic West Coast IPA, and most of the grain bill for this beer was based off our previous brew day with the Americans over at Santa Fe Brewing Company with Zach and Chris up there, tagged to that brew day over there where we did an international collab with them, and I learned quite a lot personally with how to construct a good old school IPA by doing that collab with them. So this grain bill is basically the exact same, except I swapped out 6% of the ale malt for Midnight Eclipse wheat malt. So basically a roasted wheat to give us the color and that roasty flavor.
Yeah, it's nice.
You taste the roast.
It's deceiving.
But it's not like, it's not as like thick as a stout.
What's the alcohol?
7.9%. So just a smidge of hitting that perfect 8 again. But that's kind of to be expected when you use more specialty. You don't finish as low.
It looks like a stout, doesn't have the body like stouts do.
It does have some of the roast flavor of a stout, but
the roast flavor,
not as much, I think.
But you can tell the difference between the body of the stout and this IPA.
Actually, no, I correct that. I think it has the same roast as a stout, but it definitely has the body of an IPA. Yeah. It's not as thick because it doesn't have any oats. It doesn't have a ton of wheat. It's got nothing really thickening up the body except for that 3% of dextrin malt, which is there just to make sure that it retains body, retains head, and that it has that velvety, silky mouthfeel thing going on that I really like when you use dextrin malt. It's good. The hoppy character, it's more hoppy than the beer I made with Santa Fe. I intentionally just added more hops to this one. The different hops as well, I used from memory, Riwaka, Citra, and, did I use Amarillo? Pause. We're back. So I've got my stats. It's been a while since I've actually brewed this. We've got a lot of kind of videos and projects and things on the go that have been building up and interrupting things. So I'll tell you about that in a second for those of you who haven't seen. But this one had Chinook, Riwaka, and Citra. So that's right, I remember now. I upped the Chinook that we did from the international collab, the Wombat Fiesta beer, because I wanted to lean more into the spice and the earthiness. Yeah. And then I also had Riwaka in there just to make sure that I was using a different hop schedule, to be honest. I just didn't want to do the exact same hops as I did with a different beer that's already on tap. I wanted a bit of variety. So Riwaka seems like a nice alternative. It's very citrusy and kind of fruity and zesty. It complements Citra nicely, and then that can kind of help to balance out the spice from the Chinook. Yeah. It's good, huh?
Not bad, I don't mind. Yeah. Oh, the waifu getting in.
All right, we had a brief interruption. My wife came home. Okay, let's get back to. Oh yes, the IBUs. The IBUs came out to exactly 69 IBUs.
Exactly. Same as the West Coast.
No, the West Coast, I thought it was 69. It actually hit 76 IBUs. So it's actually less bitter than the West Coast, despite having way more hops
I
in
don't
it.
perceive that to be less bitter. I feel like it's...
Because I think the roast character makes it, the roast kind of acts as bitterness with the hoppy character. But it doesn't taste like 69 IBUs. Like, that's really punchy. It does not drink that way at all. As discussed at length when I had the chat with the brewers about the West Coast. If you want to see that full extended cut, you can check it out on our Patreon. Link down below, as well as a whole bunch of behind the scenes, extra edits, long cuts that don't make it for YouTube, and getting more involved with us directly on the channel about projects and updates we have on the go.
Yeah.
Back to this. Now, sour. We've got to try the sour. Let me get my stats up for sour.
Cheers. Whoops.
Cheers. I've overfilled both of them.
Can you smell the Skittles?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't smelled green Skittles in a while, but I'm thinking.
The smell of Skittles is so strong. It's like you can smell it from the glass over there up here. It's like wafting that intense sour candy sweetness.
Wow, okay.
So the IBUs on this one came out to, where are the IBUs? IBUs came out to 8, so it hit target. The final alcohol percentage on this one is higher than what it says on Brewfather because I didn't account for how much sugar there actually is in the Skittles. Let me taste it and then we'll do that. But
it is sweet.
5.9% ABV.
It's not bad. It's not actually that bad.
It's like, oh, the Skittles come in late. That's really lingering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't mind it. I like it.
Up front, it tastes like a sour.
Yeah.
And then the Skittles kick in like a second or two later and lingers for like 3 or 4 seconds.
It's an interesting, very interesting beer.
And then there it is. That's so weird. That's trippy.
It's not like as sour as that kind of Philly yeast and previous.
No, it's not. But it doesn't taste as sour. That Philly yeast in the previous cherry verse. Oh, you need to start the timer. In the in the previous sour video, we did Philly yeast versus kettle souring. And in that experiment, we found that the kettle sour beer, despite having a lower pH, felt less acidic than the Philly yeast version. Same thing here. The Philly yeast had the highest pH of the three, still feels more sour in not a great way. Yeah. This one is a pH of 3.46, which is decently sour. It's pretty low.
Lower than what you got for the...
Yeah, I intentionally let it get low because I wanted to push the sour element a little bit more on this one.
It's interesting because I perceive it not to be as sour compared to that.
But it tastes...
Previous.
Wow, it's like candy. That does have sweetness.
It is sweet. You
know what? Not to be like sexist or anything, but typically women do like sweeter things. This would be a great beer for the ladies. So for any of you that will need to brew a beer for your other half, if your other half is female, make this one because it's sweet and it's kind of delicious.
Doesn't even look like a beer.
No, it's like, you know what it's like? It's
I reckon this could be a good mixer.
It's almost like Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
Not just in color, kind of in flavor as well. It's almost got that like because Mountain Dew is not like lemonade, but it's like
you add those coffee beans like you did for the white stout, and it literally is. Yeah. So, about the alcohol, I was planning for this to be a 3.9% beer. What I didn't account for was how much sugar would dissolve off the Skittles, because I kind of thought that the outside layer, the food coloring component would dissolve into the beer, and then that would be it. So I just kind of figured, add this late stage, like when fermentation's done, like I'd add fruit. But then the Skittles like dissolved to like 95%. There was barely any Skittle left when I emptied the fermenter at the end. It was almost fully dissolved. So it basically meant that I just added like a kilo of sugar into this batch, and it just kicked off fermentation all over again. And it added almost an extra 2% or something to the final ABV. So yeah, I was waiting, frustrated, because I was like ready to keg this beer. But then it took a whole nother week of fermentation because I just revived it and gave it a whole bunch of rocket fuel. But it doesn't have that that kind of tacky quality that you get when you add sugar to beer. Like if you do an extra kit, you add a bunch of sugar, you get that weird artificial thing in your
in your teeth
doesn't have
and the
the
flavor.
off flavor.
Doesn't have the off flavor.
Philly does, like Philly did previously. It doesn't have that off flavor.
No, it doesn't.
Which is the most noticeable thing off flavor I've tasted with sours before. It's quite sweet. It's an easy drinking sour.
You know what it's kind of like? It's kind of like a really sweet apple cider.
Yeah.
Because it's got that like acidity that apple cider has.
Well, it's apple Skittles, apple flavor.
Oh yeah, well that's why it tastes like apple cider. Yeah.
It literally is.
I forgot about that.
It feels like a cider that's just gotten a bit sour.
Yeah.
It's literally that.
Okay,
It's an interesting mix,
but
yeah.
the point of this video was this is a battle for House of the Dragon.
Battle of specialties.
We have the blacks and we have the greens.
Who's winning?
Who's winning this? Because this is the
Who's got
prediction.
more dragons?
This is the prediction for the rest of the series.
Oh, we've both read the books.
Yeah, I know, but this is a prediction.
There are no winners.
There's no winners in the Game of Thrones. Look, I'm going to give you my opinion. As much as I think the Skittles Sour is an extraordinarily weird but nice beer, it's not something I personally am going to gravitate towards. Personally, I'm obviously going to choose like a Black IPA. It's robust,
If you saw on a
intense,
menu,
it's classic.
green apple Skittles Sour.
Or a Black IPA. Well, look,
Black
to be
IPA.
honest, I'd probably buy the Skittles because it sounds weird and interesting.
Exactly.
But if I tasted both,
I guess.
I know. Well, yeah, but if I tasted both, I know which one I'm ordering again. I'm ordering the IPA again.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
What about you?
I don't know. Would I prefer a black IPA or a regular IPA?
Well, I'd prefer a regular IPA.
Yeah. I don't know. I think
Black IPA is interesting and it's a nice change up. It's not personally my favorite IPA. Not to say it's not a bad beer. It's not a good beer. It's a really good beer. It's just not the thing that I'm going to drink on a regular basis. It's intense. It's like mixing a stout with an IPA. By the way, it doesn't have to be that way. Like I could have added the Eclipse malt at the very end of mash, like 10 minutes to go, so that it would get just color but no like very little flavor, and then it basically would have tasted exactly like an IPA, but with the color infusion of the black grains. But I kind of wanted the more robust and intense character because it's meant to emulate House Targaryen, you know, dragons and boldness and ferocity. I wanted that in the beer. And then, you know, vice versa. I wanted the green Skittles Sour to be a little funky, a little weird, and leave you feeling with a weird taste on your tongue.
We had the idea for it to be a bit more green, I think.
It was meant to be more green. It was meant to be more like...
We were searching for something, what's going to actually make it green?
Yeah.
Like, without putting food coloring in.
Yeah, well, I thought it was going to end up green like an actual Skittle. Like, I thought it was going to have that darker green quality to it. And it's kind of more like, nuclear acid. It's like
borderline yellow.
It's yellow crossed with green.
Too wee, literally.
No, but it's too fluoro for that. It's like fluoro. It's like it's got light from within. It's super weird.
I don't know. I think I'm preferring the black IPA though, in terms of like a drink. I don't know. I don't mind the green Skittles.
It's not nice going back and forth.
I do. I think I might drink this over the cherry.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well,
I don't mind it.
Check out the video in our Patreon because that's where we do the Battle of the Sours, and we have the
find out.
sour apple
We'll see.
versus the cherry versus the pina colada sour from a long while back. So if you want to see that blast from the past, check it out in Patreon down below.
Yeah, okay.
This is. I think the black IPA wins.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Did the blacks win?
Well, based on this, the blacks do win.
Spoiler alerts.
Spoilers, if you don't want to be hit by spoilers, skip the next 30 seconds from now.
They win,
but
they lose.
I was going to say, isn't it so funny that we make people skip, but we won't say it anyway? No,
win,
the blacks
but they
win.
lose.
They win, but they lose. Yeah, I think that's all there is to it. So anyway, thanks guys for joining us once again. I hope you enjoy this season of House of the Dragon. We certainly will be. We're definitely going to be drinking these while we watch the show.
Yeah.
And again, if you have any ideas for us for future brew days, you want to get more involved, leave us comments down below. Let us know what you think. If you guys have brewed any weird specialty sours or different styles of IPAs that you think we should brew, let me know in the comments down below.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Catch you next time.